Okay, so we're back once again, and today we're going to be taking, I suppose the other side of the coin. Recently I posted a video about the importance of playing passive, especially when you're playing ships like the Holland, but today we're going to be looking at the other side of that coin, and looking at the importance of actually playing aggressive when you need to play aggressive, and exposing those gaps in the enemy line that sometimes could pop up and you should be aware of, and seize the opportunity and take that opportunity to deal quite a bit of damage. So the game, as we have it, starts off with the small and pushing, and something that's becoming a bit too much of a pattern recently is me starting late to the game and being AFK. But we do get started anyways, and we think about pushing into C, but the thing is, when I play the Holland, and on this map in particular, I feel like if I push into C with the rocks, with the very clear channels and the very clear choke points, being a torpedo boat sometimes can be effective, but other times I find being in a much more open space, allowing BBs to kind of get into a full sense of security, tends to be a lot more effective for the way I play torpedo boats. So with that being the case, and strangely I never see a Druid in a game either, it's a very unique ship, shall we say, that you don't really get to see all that often. Anyways, with that being said, we are going to push into B. Again, if we look at the enemy DDs though, they have a Druid, a Kleber, Shimakaze and a Holland. So again, we're really just trying to avoid the Kleber here. Anything else is fine really. With that being said, we're trying to push into B to open up the map, and we do end up spotting the Kleber, so we're going to take a little bit more of a passive approach. Again, we only want to be aggressive when it's in our best interest to be aggressive. We don't want to be all gung-ho and end up dying within 5 minutes and costing our team the game, which is, again, a pattern that seems to be recurring in the game. But with that being said, if we look at the detection ranges, even if I shoot here, I'm not going to be detected by the Kleber, and my detection range allows me to actually push into B, which is something that's, it's not that too much of a threat. Now, right now, I want you to look at the minimap. Look at the minimap, look at where all of the enemy team are clustering. We have a Zhao and a Hindenburg on the left-hand flank, along with a Shimakaze supporting that. But on the right-hand flank, we have a Moskva and a Mines, a Minotaur, Slava, and obviously the Druid is still pinned in that location, because if he moves out of there, he's going to get slapped by a Smolensk in the face. So what this allows me to do is, realizing that the Kleber is already capped B, and at this point he's probably pushing towards A, just as he shows up on the minimap, because really there's nothing left for him to do here. He's not going to push into a Des Moines. It allows me to, one, cap B, and secondly, it allows me to actually push through the middle of the map. Now, again, this is a little bit risky. The Kleber could always double back and kind of mess me up, but it's a calculated risk, and with the Shimakaze supporting me, I feel a lot more comfortable taking this risk and actually, extending the push than I otherwise would be on a torpedo boat. Now, that being said, we are going to get the cap, and then, as we know from earlier, we see the Druid on not 100% HP, about 50% or so. And when you tie into the fact that the Yamato's pulling away from B, the Kleber is already away from B, which means that if I engage a 1v1 with the Druid, the only real ships that are going to back him up are maybe a Des Moines, a Moskva, but they're pretty far out of range. They're going to be around, 15, 13 kilometers away, which, again, creates enough distance where I have plausible ability to actually deny, or maybe deny some of the shots from hitting me. Whereas if you look on my side of the map, you see the Smolensk right there, you see the Smolensk right there, you even see the Shimakaze there to an extent. And so when the Druid does pop up and have his guns pointed in the wrong direction, I'm well capable to take advantage of it. Now again, I want to be careful here not to kind of post-rationalize my decisions, just because they worked out, they're a good decision. I wouldn't engage this Druid in... to an extent, I'm not even all that familiar with the Druid and how strong it is, how strong its guns are, how strong its survivability is, all that stuff. So this game in and of itself is a bit of a, exploration of that ship in and of itself. But again, realizing I still have that backup, I'm more than happy to take this exchange. And again, the only real ship being a threat here is 1, the Druid, and 2, the Yamato. But again, that being said, the Yamato is still pretty far away. So we're going to drop down some speculative torps. Again, in torpedo boats, the one thing you want to do when you're using your torpedoes is you want to get as close as possible to the enemy ship you want to torpedo and give them as little time as possible to change course, react, you know, and dodge them as a result. And with these torpedoes, luckily, the enemy Yamato is not going to change course and we're going to get a decent amount of hits. That being said though, we're still going to expose this flank and we're still going to take advantage of it. It just so happens that now with the Druid out of the equation, we can really extend our advantage and take on this flank completely. Again, we're in a fine location here, or in a fine point in the game. Sure, the enemy team got C and they're all clustered around C, but at this point, even though our weak side on the left hand flank is obviously weaker, they still have just capped A right now, which gives us ample time to 1, kill the Yamato, and then get that crossfire, get those cross torpedoes, get that cross flank, and really punish the enemy team for taking that much longer to actually cap C. Sorry, A. Sometimes the alphabet is difficult. Now, one thing that really hampers torpedo boats, or one thing that really hampers gunboats, that really doesn't hamper torpedo boats, is cyclones. Whenever I play a gunboat and there's a cyclone, it makes me want to rip my hair out. Whereas when I play a torpedo boat, it actually allows me that extra kind of coverage to actually push closer and really get those torpedoes nice and close, so I can do this to enemy ships. I'll let them flood out. There we go. Now with the Yamato done, again, now we go for the crossfire. Or not the crossfire, but the cross torps. And really exposing this flank, catching the enemy team between basically a rock and a hard place. And yeah, now usually the Zao would be well capable of taking on a Shimakaze, but when there's 2 Shimakazes in the Holland, that's a lot of torpedoes to deal with, and so yeah, it's not going to end all that well for the Zao. He does try to turn out, but with just the sheer amount of torpedoes that we can actually chunk out or throw out, it's pretty horrific to deal with, even with Hydro. Again, having to simultaneously dodge Shimakaze torpedoes along with Holland torpedoes, which are moving exceptionally quickly, again, isn't a great recipe. We do end up landing 4 torpedoes, takes up to about 105k, and we get the dev strike, which is always nice. And at this point the game's effectively over. Again, this game just wanted to demonstrate the importance of actually pushing aggressively when you see an opportunity to actually, you know, take a section of the map and really punish the enemy team for abandoning it or, you know, being neglectful. Take it, even if you're playing a torpedo boat. Usually this type of play would be more preserved for more gunboat, more kind of dominant DDs, but again, if you see the opportunity, take it. There's not much more to show here. We basically just push into A, kill the Thunder, he dies, and the game ends effectively. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. That was close.